So I'm here to help you in this session. It's going to be a little bit like a tutorial to walk you through each and every step of the way. I want you to leave here today knowing that you know how to do this project. This is the first goal. And the second goal is for you to know that this is a relatively interesting and easy project to do. And I'm going to show you how to make it easy and interesting for you. So I'm going to take you step by step through using generative AI tools like ChatGPT in order to help you come up with hypotheses. We've provided a lot of resources for you, so I think some of you got a little bit lost where to start with things. What are these templates? What is this Qualtrics? What do I need to do for stage one? What do I need to do for stage two? So the first hour or so, it's going to be me showing you how to do things on my laptop. Then in the second session, you can choose if you want to stay or not. It's up to you. But I'm going to let you work in your teams, and I'm going to go around the teams and sit with each and every one of you in order to make sure that you can do each and every one of the steps. And if you need my advice or you want to work with me on something, then I'm happy to help. So this session is 100% for you and your project 3 to make sure that you're online, you know what needs to be done, and then hopefully that you can take some value from it. So I just want to give you a few reminders of stuff that we've done together. So 2 weeks ago, you did some factors for charities. You sat together and you brainstormed with your teams what kind of different factors there are. So if you want, you can go back and revisit this. I've cleaned it up a little bit, so it's better structured, but you can identify some of the factors over there and see if you want to use any of that for your project 3. One of the things that I recommend that you do, that I also played around with, you can download the Google Doc. You can go press File, Download, Save As. Save this in your computer, and then you can feed this into ChatGPT in order to use that to generate new ideas. So if looking at your classmates or remembering what it is that you've done is not good enough, ChatGPT can help you use this as a resource in order to come up with new hypotheses. In addition, one other thing that you can do is that you can actually go and take Mannix's thesis, undergraduate thesis, which all this exercise is based on that thesis. So you can go on this URL, you can download the preprint, and you can feed that. I'm going to show you how to do this. I've actually done this, and you can import my chat with ChatGPT to your own chat. So that's another resource that you have. And then we have a lot of effective altruism books. So if you're thinking, I don't have any interesting ideas for any kinds of factors, you can actually go and look at effective altruism books. So one of them just came out this year. You can scan this if you want later on, but it's an open access book. So it will only cost you if you want a hard copy, but if you're okay with a PDF, then it's completely free. So yeah, this is what it looks like. It's effective altruism and the human mind, the clash between impact and intuition, which is basically we've devoted at least 3 different sessions to talking about how people have these emotional gut reactions to all kinds of things, but this goes counter to effectiveness, the way that it's measured by effective altruism movement. Some of the names that might be familiar is Lucius Caviola. So he's the person who did Giving Multiplier that we saw at the end of last class. He's the person who published 5 different articles about effective altruism. So in this book, you can find a lot of different factors. Some of them have been investigated by Lucius, but some of them are based on some effective altruism forums about other ideas. So you can go and read this yourself, hundreds of pages, or you can download this, feed this to ChatGPT and say, please summarize this for me. What are the most impactful factors? And then please create an experiment based on charity A, charity B. So I'll show you how to do that as well. So that's one of the factors, one of the books that you can look at. In addition, I wrote this in the syllabus and in your Zulip message. There are these 3 different resources. 2 books were written by your classmates from last year who took this course, very, very exhaustive, about a million different factors and all kinds of literature and things that you might want to investigate. You can feel free to use this as you like. You can either go through this, or if you want, you can just feed this to ChatGPT in order to gain some insight. So that's another resource that you can use. So you'll see the book starts around here. So maximizing through career choice and maximizing animal welfare, maximizing climate change. So it's basically a lot of different factors. How do we establish whether something is effective or not? So a lot of solutions, situations, factors for you to consider. In addition, this is a collaborative guide that I started and some people in effective altruism sometimes use. So feel free to go in here if you need more resources, if you want to know more about things. Sometimes what you can do with ChatGPT is that you can add links to YouTube videos, TED Talks, forums, whatever you feel like. So you'll see over here on the left, we have EA guides, EA books, EA courses, EA groups and games, a bunch of literature readings. You can download all of these readings and feed those to ChatGPT. You can even say, based on this reading, can you tell me what the factors are? Can you create an experiment for me? So it's much easier when you have a lot of these readings. So just feel free to go through this, hundreds of links. So you should have enough ideas just from looking at these 3 resources and the book that came out. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to show you how I use generative AI. You do not need to follow what it is that I do. I think I'm kind of like old school, so probably you're much better with technologies than I am. Maybe you have some clever way of doing things in a way that I don't know how to do, but at least I'll show you what I did. It took me about 10 minutes. And it's very powerful. It's just amazing what you can do nowadays with ChatGPT. The students from last year didn't have ChatGPT 4.0. They had ChatGPT 3 something. So they were not able to use this. And I can tell you in the past year, ChatGPT has really changed a lot. So you have the privilege of having this very powerful tool. So I'll just show you what's possible with this. If you want, you can scan this. I'll give you a second to open this. What's nice about scanning this or going to this link is that actually you can import my chat and start from that. So instead of you having to go through all the prompts and having your own, you can actually use what it is that I've already used. So in order to do this, you'll need an account at POE. I don't know if you've ever used this, but a VPN in Hong Kong is the only other option that I know of in order to be able to use ChatGPT. So POE allows you in Hong Kong to use not just one, but use all of the generative AI together in one interface. Very easy. You can overcome the Hong Kong block and be able to use things as you like. And it's very, very, very fast. It has some limits and restrictions, but I don't think anything you do will ever reach that limit. So I wouldn't worry about that. Okay, so I'll try and show you a little bit of what I've been doing with this. This is what it looks like. So basically POE, you can open a bunch of different bots. So you can decide which bot you want to work with. I work with, for this one, ChatGPT 4.0 mini 1 to 8K, something like that. So I'll show you how I got started. The first thing that I got started is that I took what we did last year and I just fed this into ChatGPT so ChatGPT knows what this would look like. So you'll see this document. You can actually attach documents. So that's this thing over here. It's called Comparing Charities Real Data docx, which is a Word file. Where is this Word file? So in the Zulip message, I actually shared with you all of the things that last year students did, all the real data that we collected. It's under this OSF. So under this OSF, you'll be able to see our pre-registration and the Qualtrics and the real data. And you can also use all the students' final reports. So you can actually download this. If you don't know what your report should look like, just have a look at what the previous year's students did. So you can just like open one of these or just open randomly. I don't even know if this is a good one or a bad one, but all of them were pretty good. So you can just open these up and see how good you think they are. If you're not sure, what should I include for the introduction? What should I include for the methods? What should I include for the results? I think your best bet is to open all these reports and see how well they did. So you can see like an abstract and it has the factors. So they decided to do tax deductions, framing effects, personal connection, and so forth. So they wrote, this is actually a lot more than what I expect you. I don't expect you to write so much and have so many citations, but they went above and beyond. So if you want, you can also do this. This is already like very high level manuscript. Yeah, this is very extensive. You don't need to go as far as this. Finally, there's the methods section somewhere at some point will come in. Yeah. So we've got all the factors, the hypotheses, and the findings. Yeah, so we've got the methods section, the design, all the scenarios. So what was the vignette, the original, and so forth. So you can just have a look at this. If this scares you a little bit, I have to tell you that most of this is just like a copy paste. So once you have the vignettes, it's copy paste. Basically, all the results section is a copy paste from what it is that I give you. So at the end, you see all these wonderful graphs. I will provide you with those. I will provide you with all the test results. So a lot of this is a lot of copy paste. So don't be over intimidated by this. But they had a lot of very interesting hypothesis, and this looks a very, very high quality. In addition to having a look at all the reports, and you can download this and feed this to ChatGPT if you want. One other thing that you can do is to look at the data that we had. So I'm going to just open this on my laptop. So in real data, you'll see what the data that I will give you looks like. So I do this with R Markdown, and the R Markdown produces both HTML and docx files. So this is a little bit like what you'll get. So basically, you'll see that there's a data set, it loads all the data set, and then it starts to do all kinds of analyses. So this is an example from last year about framing positive or framing positive or framing negative, and how this leads to being risk averse or risk seeking. So you can see, for example, the framing for positive is charity A and B both save lives of those facing likely death. Donation to charity A means 100% certainty, and then charity B means that they're 50% chance of saving and 50% chance of not saving. So both charity A and charity B have a net saving of 50 people. Only one has certainty and one has risk to it. So the question is, which will people prefer, charity A or charity B? And the hypothesis here is that under positive framing, so all this is positive, saving lives, people show a tendency towards risk aversion. And there's this thing here saying lower than 50. What is lower than 50? If we go back to the Qualtrics, we'll see that in the Qualtrics, all of the questions had the same format, and it's this format. So how much would you allocate A to B? So 0 means 0 allocation to charity B, 10 means 10% charity B, and so forth. 100% is 100% to charity B. So when I say lower than 50, it means a preference for A, and in this case here, A means 100% certainty. So when there's positive framing, people show a tendency for certainty, for risk aversion. So this is the hypothesis. Right after the hypothesis, what you will get from me is the statistical test, and all of you have exactly the same statistical test. What is this statistical test? It's called a one-sample t-test. So one-sample t-test tries to see whether there's a deviation from a certain point. So if you don't know whether people are going to prefer charity A or charity B, and you want to see whether people prefer charity B or prefer charity A, then the midpoint, 50-50, which is 50% allocation to A. Here, I'll just show you here. Why doesn't it open? Okay. So 50% allocation to charity A and 50% charity B. It means that people have no preference. So they actually couldn't care less whether they donate to charity A or charity B. Just say, I have no preference, allocate my money to both of them. If they have a certain preference, then we'll see. If it's higher than 50, it means they have a preference for B. If it's lower than 50, it has a preference for A. So what are the results? You can see that the results show that the mean is 25. If we look at this figure, which you will get from me, you don't need to create this on your own. You will see that the distribution is that most people prefer 0 allocation to B. So lower than 50. The mean is 25. If you look at the statistics, the p-value is very, very, very low. You can see here how low it is. So it means that we found support for preference for charity A. And then you have the Hedges G or Cohen's D, which is the same, which is 1.04. That's a very substantive effect. When we find effect like this, it means that there's something meaningful going on over here. And you can also see this here. So Cohen's D, which is almost the same as a Hedges G. So basically, we have an effect size of 1.04. What does this show? It shows that the hypothesis was supported, and indeed here, people show a tendency towards charity A, towards risk aversion. Okay, so what you can do is you can take all of this file, and you can upload this to ChatGPT and say, can you please summarize this for me? I want to see all the factors together. So this is basically what I did. In the OSF, you'll find this. This is HTML, but there's also a document version of this. So we'll see it here. Yeah, so this is the document X. So it's basically the same thing that you saw on the HTML, but it also has, it's just a Word document that is better to feed to the ChatGPT. So you'll see exactly the same. It has the outputs I just showed you in the HTML, and it has this figure with all the statistics. Okay, so you can use that as much as you want. Just go and check out what the other students did in previous years. I'll just go back to ChatGPT. So this document file, I just uploaded to ChatGPT, and then I wrote. The attached document includes a long list of single question experiments comparing two charities in a vignette followed by a hypothesis. Create a document with a table that includes the vignettes in one column and the hypothesis in a second column. And it did that for me. It's very, very good. It just took and summarized all this one by one, so it's more easy to navigate that kind of thing. And then finally, you could move to the next one. And then I told him, based on these vignettes of what the previous year students did, based on the vignettes and the hypothesis with a similar format, come up with a new and innovative single question. So you create new things for me that were not in there, comparing charities, examining psychological factors. Choose ones that likely demonstrate a cognitive bias. So it's already quite amazing to see how fast ChatGPT does this and the kind of quality. And it talks about a lot of cognitive biases that I teach in the other class in judgment decision making. So loss aversion, anchoring effect, overconfidence, framing, scarcity, social proof. So this is already great because it gives me all these charities. Charity A repeatedly states its mission and impact in various communication. Charity B only shares its mission occasionally. So this is already quite nice, but it's not exactly what I was looking for. So I went even further. What I wrote was, instead of these biases, do the task again, but instead replace those with biases as identified by affective altruism movement when it comes to effectiveness versus emotions. So we've had a lot of these discussions in the past 3 sessions. And then I wrote, their claim is that people overemphasize emotions and underestimate charity effectiveness. And these ones are already quite amazing. I was very surprised by the quality of these ones. So Charity A shares a heart-wrenching story of a single child saved, while Charity B presents data showing it saved thousands of lives. And then what is the hypothesis? People will allocate more to Charity A than Charity B, even though Charity B is more effective. This is already fantastic. So you can already do a lot of things with this. But I wanted to see how far I can go with this. So for example, I asked it to give me more and more and more examples. So you can generate hundreds of these, and then you can select the ones that you think are the best. So I did 20, and then I got a little bit 20 or 30. Then I got a little bit tired. And then I wrote, for each one of these examples, provide real, verifiable, credible academic citations. So sometimes ChatGPT has a very developed sense of imagination. It imagines all kinds of citations, but you can fight this with a good prompt. So if you tell the ChatGPT that you only want real academic citable sources, then it will give you that. And then I give examples of what I prefer in terms of the credibility. I want things that are systematic reviews, meta-analysis, or pre-registered experiments that can be used as sources for the hypothesis. And then I want ChatGPT to explain to me the findings, how this is supporting the hypothesis. And then I also add, just to make sure, do not use imaginary citations. Use only real citations and credible academic resources. And to my great surprise, look at this wonderful table. So you've got the vignette, the hypothesis, the citation, and the explanation. And because I know this literature very well, then I know that this is a solid citation, this is a solid citation. We've actually run some replications of these studies. Some of them were even discussed in this class. So these are very, very good. And these kind of factors, so immediate versus future, short-term, long-term, emotional versus rational, urgency versus neglect, familiarity, scarcity, abundance, it's just wonderful. So already within 5 different prompts, I already have some very high quality hypotheses. So if you're sitting together with your team and it's like, what should we do? What does the professor want? I don't know. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention, or I got lost with all the things in the course. You don't need to struggle with any of these things because you've got this monster tool that really helps you generate a lot of new things. So then your task becomes, first, to give it good prompts. Second, to discuss which of those is the most meaningful. Which ones of those do you want to use? So it will give you hundreds, but then it's up to you to select the 10 to 20, up to you how many, that you think are going to be the best ones and the most interesting ones. If you want, one of the things that you can do is that you can take one of these rows and you can tell ChatGPT, I really like this example, generate more examples like that. And then you can give it instructions. For example, if you want to focus on something, or if you want to make the example more specific, more broad, just tell ChatGPT what you want and it will update the table accordingly. So that's already fantastic. I'll give you another example for what I did. I actually uploaded Mannix's thesis. So I just took the thesis and I uploaded this to ChatGPT, and then I asked, please extract all the vignettes comparing charities used in the attached manuscript. And because I know this very well, it was the supervisor for this thesis, then I know that this is very accurate. So it was able to extract the waste, past cost, diversification, and so forth. And then finally, I wrote structure the extracted vignette into the table that has the same vignette, hypothesis, citation, explanation, just like in the previous vignettes. Once again, it creates this wonderful table. The only problem with this table is that because this Mannix thesis is a replication of Barron, so all the citations are Barron, and I don't want them to be Barron. I want them to be of different kind of sources. So I write, for the last table, replace the citation you provided with a new relevant citation. Use the real, verifiable, credible academic citations. Do not use imaginary citations. And if you recall, actually, these are very good citations because we actually talked about Origenisi in the science paper about how to overcome overhead, right? So if you take all the overhead and you ask Bill Gates or Warren Buffett to fund it for you, you can boost your donations by 2.5. So ChatGPT was able to come up with the right citation, with the right paper to identify the people who followed up on what Barron did in 2011. So these are very good citations. This is also a good citation. So ChatGPT here does an amazing job. If we want to go further, I ask, based on this table, so I say, okay, so now you've got Mannix's thesis, and now we have new sources instead of the Barron chapter. And now I ask ChatGPT, please come up with new, innovative, single questions and hypothesis comparing charities. Use factors that will likely help charities that apply the principles of effective altruism and so forth. And another thing that I do is that I feed ChatGPT with the book on effective altruism. So I downloaded the book, I converted the PDF to a docx, to a Word file, and I uploaded this together with it. So now it has Mannix's thesis with all the factors. It has new sources of citations for each one of the hypotheses. Now it has a book on effective altruism, and together with the three of them, it can create new hypotheses. And it's already very good, like an influence of narrative framing, temporal proximity, perceived urgency. I created very easily, within a few prompts, I created 20, which are very high quality. And then I just asked it to structure it in the same way: vignette, hypothesis, citation, explanation. And this is already what you have in your introduction, in your template. So you can basically take this as is, copy paste this. As long as you share all your prompts, you can use this as you want. It's a very, very powerful tool. And in this case, it can save you a lot of time. So what I care here is not for you to come up with your own. It's not for you to go and do a literature review. It's not for you to identify a theoretical gap. I don't really care much about the literature. I don't care about the theory. I don't need you to do this like a PhD or like a thesis. This is not the point. The point is for you to focus on the phenomenon. So I want you to identify something that is likely to be real, a real phenomenon that people really care about. And I want us to test this together to see which are the most impactful factors. Okay? So it's more about being able to identify factors, to be able to come up with hypotheses, to be able to test the hypothesis and then to reflect on the results. Okay? So no need for very long manuscripts, no need for a lot of literature review. Use ChatGPT in order to help simplify your life. So these are very, very good. You can already take those and import this into your POE. I also created 20 more. So there's already, I don't know, a bunch in there. You can use this or clarify this or play with this, whatever you feel like. Another thing that I did, and this is the last one that the last two that I gave there, is that I fed this at the beginning to ChatGPT, but the nice thing about this is that POE allows you to run the same chat and the same prompt with different bots. So in this case, I asked it to just do another response. You requested another response, but instead of using ChatGPT, I just used Claude. And then I said, instead of Claude, just use Gemini. How difficult is it to do it in POE? It's two clicks. So at the end, you'll see that at the end, you can just compare this to different bots. You can choose which bot you want, and then you can talk to the different bots. So you can repeat the same thing again and again. I think the ChatGPT Mini 40128 gave me the best prompts, but maybe you have some other thing that you want to try out. So you can compare. You can, if you're getting stuck with one of the bots, you can just move to a different bot. So already within 10 minutes, I was able to come up with there's at least 100 different hypotheses here with factors that I can run. But I want you to reflect on these. I want you to look at these, examine these, perfect these, make sure that these are very strong and solid and that they're direct enough, they're specific enough so that we can run these together. So if you want to import this, just scan this or go to this URL. You can download my presentation from the OSF and then just press the link. And then at the end, once you see all my chat, at the end it says, do you want to import this chat? So you just import it and you run it, and you can continue from where I left off. Okay? So it gives you a lot of different examples for the things that I ran. I hope you can see that this is fairly simple. So maybe at the beginning you felt like you're stumped, you don't know how to proceed with this task, but now you have so many different things that you can do. So it really comes down to you thinking together with your teammates which ones are interesting for you to test. So finally, I want to show you a little bit about the analysis. Some people are like, what? I have to create my own Qualtrics? What? I have to do data collection? What? I have to run Jamovi or R Markdown? This is very scary stuff. I've never done this. I didn't come to advanced social psychology to run R. So not to worry, there are templates for everything, and I will show you click by click what to do in your Qualtrics. How to take this from Qualtrics to Jamovi, how to take this from Jamovi to R. Everything is very simple and straightforward, okay? So I provided you with a Qualtrics template. The Qualtrics template is here. Yeah. If you don't have one yet, then you should definitely go and create an HKU Qualtrics account. So you can just do hkuqualtrics.com. Go here, and if you don't have an account, then create an account. Okay. Do not go to qualtrics.com. Do not use the free Qualtrics user, because HKU has a site license and it's a lot more powerful than the free Qualtrics. Okay. So you go to hkuqualtrics.com and there you open an account. It's free for you. You got all the power of the site license that HKU did. So I have a lot of these, I have hundreds, if not thousands of surveys. I'm just going to show you how to take the Qualtrics templates. So we have the template here. Qualtrics template. A Qualtrics template ends with .qsf. So this is the file that you will need in order to upload this to Qualtrics. But generally, I'm going to take this QSF file and I'm going to upload this to Qualtrics. So this is the main page for Qualtrics, if you're not familiar. Here, we want to create a new project. So if I create a new project, I ask it to create a survey for me. So I press on survey. I go to get started. So let's get started. It wants a name for me. So let's say that my group name is Silver, Team Project 3, and then comparing charities, something like that, something meaningful. Then here, how do you want to start your survey? Instead of create a blank survey, I want to import a QSF file. So I'm going to open the file from that directory and then create project. It will take a second, but finally it will import everything that I prepared for you in this Qualtrics to create your own Qualtrics. If you need to share this with your teammates, you can collaborate on that. So one of the tools that you have is collaboration, and then you can share this with some other people. So you can write their emails and share this with them. So a few members can work on the Qualtrics together. Just be very careful when you do that, okay? So try and control so that you don't overlap each other and you don't cancel each other's changes. Here, my main request from you is to just change things, to update things to what needs to be done. So like Team Silver intro. This is the intro that I used from Mannix's thesis, but you can change it to whatever your intro is if you want it. If you don't need it, then just remove it. And here, and this is the main component, this is how we collect the data. So if you remember the scale of 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way to 100, it's this question. So it says teammate allocation. So here in the main question, this is where the vignette is actually shown. But if you look at this, it doesn't have any text. It has these weird things called item. Item, current loop number out of total loops, and then it has this LM field 1. What is this about? This is about a feature in Qualtrics that's called loop and merge. So instead of you having to create another block and another block and another block for each one of your vignettes, you can just have one block for all the 10 vignettes, all the 20 vignettes. How does it do it? So if you look up here, there's a little symbol up here on the top, and it says loop and merge. If you press this loop and merge, you'll see that it actually has already 3 vignettes. Okay? So basically what it does is it takes from LM, loop and merge, and it puts it into the block. So it will display these vignettes for you inside. If you want, you can add more. So basically the way that you add your vignettes to the Qualtrics is here. So if we go back to the charity comparisons, you can have, I don't know, let's take this one. I don't know, maybe something a little bit more meaningful. Let's go back here. Yeah, Charity A focuses on local health initiatives and Charity B operates on a global scale with proven results, okay? So let's just take this one, for example. I'm just gonna copy it here. Another thing that you'll see is that it has some HTML stuff. The only HTML here that you really need to know is bolding, and bolding basically puts this B in bracketing. So I'm just going to emphasize charity A and charity B, and then I'm going to close the bolding. So charity A, close, oh, not here, but here, charity B. Yeah, and then you're done. We just need 4 of these. So we created the 4th one. Okay, so once this is done, we can press save. Let's say, for example, I just want to remove this block just for the ease. So I'm going to delete that one. And I'm going to preview this in order to see what came up at the end. And what it will do is that it will display in random order any of these 4 vignettes. So you see that it replaced item LM out of LM. It replaced it with item 1 out of 4. So this is the loop and merge. And then it puts in one of the vignettes. And you can see that A is actually bolded. Okay. How much would you allocate to A? How much would you allocate to B? And so forth. Actually, these questions we don't need. You don't need those. This is something that Manix did, but you can remove this. So we can actually delete this, and delete this. And we can just focus on this one here, just the allocation. Okay, so you can just leave that here. So if we preview this, then we'll see that it just asks me one question about each one of the vignettes, about the 4 vignettes. So we have A helps children who are in your own country, and B helps children around the world. Which one do you want? Okay, allocate all to B, all to B. So this is what loop and merge does. You have one block, but it does all the vignettes for you within the loop and merge using that block. Okay? That's the only thing you need to do with the Qualtrics. You take your vignettes from whatever you did, ChatGPT or what you came up with your classmates, and you put this in the loop and merge. You're done. This is it. Okay? Now that you finish this, the question is, how do you simulate data? Because you'll notice that in the stage 1, I want you to simulate participants before data collection. How to do this? It's just 2 clicks in Qualtrics. So if you go to Qualtrics, it has tools, generate test responses. If you go to generate test responses, you can just give it how many test participants do you want. So you can say, for example, 50, and it will create 50 participants for you that will do all the 4 vignettes. Okay, so it will take a little bit of time. It could be, I think it can create up to 100 each time, but within 5 seconds, it gave me 50 participants. Okay, so now I can close this, and I already have 50 participants that now I can analyze. Is this clear? Simulating participants. So all I did so far, import the Qualtrics, insert my vignettes to the loop and merge, just check this in a preview to make sure everything is okay, and then generate participants. That's the only thing with Qualtrics that you need to worry about, okay? Now the question is, okay, I want to analyze this. How do I analyze this? So on top here, you'll see that there's a tab called Data and Analysis. So we go to Data and Analysis, and it displays to me all the 50 participants. So you can see recorded responses are these 50 test participants. It takes it a bit of time to display this, but we don't have to wait. We can just export the data. And then you can see there are lots of file formats. I strongly recommend and request that you use the SPSS format. The reason for that is that the SPSS format, it's not for use with SPSS, it's just the file format. It's the best format that we have because with CSV is comma separated values. If some of the responses for some reason have a comma, then everything is going to shift. If it has a tab, it's going to shift. Excel has a problem of sometimes transforming numbers into dates. So I've seen all kinds of problems with students getting stuck on this. SPSS does not have this problem. So you can download a .sav file to your directory. So I'll go back and I'll download this. So I'm going to download the dataset. I'm going to save it here on my laptop. So I'll just show you this again. So now it's displaying all the participants. I went to export data, SPSS, download. 5 clicks altogether from the interface. Once this is done, it's going to ask me where to save it. I'm going to save it together with the real data, and I'm going to call this silver. I'll save this here. So this is my pre-registration. So just curious, how many of you have used Jamovi before? Do you know Jamovi? Some of you? Yeah? Okay. How many of you have used R before and prefer R over Jamovi? Nobody? Just Jamovi? Okay. Jamovi is R. So some students don't know this, but Jamovi runs on R. You can export all your Jamovi to R code. So I'll show you how to do this. Okay, so I'm going to open Jamovi just to show you in a tool that you are familiar with. We're going to open the silver file in Jamovi. Okay, we're finished with the Qualtrics. Now I open Jamovi. This is what Jamovi looks like if you're not familiar. Maybe I'll just make this a little bit bigger. Then I'm going to open the data set. So I'm going to load the silver. Yeah. And this is what the silver data set looks like. It has a bunch of variables that we really don't care about because this is Qualtrics. And finally, we have the 4 vignettes, A1, A2, A3, A4. If I double click on this, then I will be able to see the vignette that I just copied. Charity A focuses, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. So now I want to analyze this to make sure that this runs well and this is okay. So basically what you can do, you can either use my template or you can use yourself. The first thing you want to do is exploration and descriptives. So we just want to analyze the one that we just added. It will already give me some descriptives, and then I can just use like box plots and do a few clicks in order to see the distribution. So these are already very good plots. And you can see there's like a different, it's random data. So it doesn't really mean anything. And because it's random data, the average is very close to 50. So because it's simulated data, then we don't expect it to be any different than the mean of 50 because it's a distribution. So now we want to run the test that we will run on all our hypotheses, and it's called a one sample t-test. In the one sample t-test, you just add the variable that you care about, which is the fourth one, A4. You want to add the mean, effect size, confidence intervals, descriptives, and descriptive plots. And then you tell it, what do you want to test against? Do you want to test against 0? Do you want to test against 50? So test value is 50, right? Is it different from 50, yes or no? And you can see the p-value is very high, so it's not significantly different from 50. Okay, so this already gives you everything that you need. It gives you the Cohen's d, which is very, very low. Okay, so using simulated data, you should not have any significant results if you compare to a 50-50 chance. Okay, so this is something that already within a few clicks give you everything that you need. This is all that you require. The nice thing about Jamovi is that everything, including the tables, are APA style already. So you can just click on this, copy this, go to Word. Not autocorrect, no, not this one. You can go to Word, yeah, like this one, and just copy paste, and just like everything is already prepared for you. So in your results section, the only thing that I expect from you in your results section for simulated data is for each one of these factors to have a row that has these statistics. So it's a copy paste for you. So once you've simulated the data, you've done everything in Jamovi, everything is ready for you, okay? Any questions about how I did this with the one sample t-test in Jamovi? It's very simple. Because we have such a simple design, charity A versus charity B, it's a one sample t-test, and it's very easy to do in Jamovi, okay? For those who are a little bit familiar with R, there's also a template for R, so I'll very briefly show you this. First, I'll show you that Jamovi actually runs on R. How do I know that it runs on R? You can go here, press the 3 dots up here on the right, and then it has something called syntax mode. If you press the syntax mode, you'll see that actually it has the R code. So this R code, you can actually copy and paste into R and it will work, which is quite remarkable, right? So we'll go back to the R Markdown. It's not super important for you right now, but just so you know that RStudio does amazing things. Not only does it run R, but it also uses something, it exports things that are called R Markdown. R Markdown is a combination between R code and text. So if you look at what this looks like. So here we have text. So setup and data loading, and this is R code. Here we have more text and more R code. And at the end, it will export this for me. Now, if you want to see what it would look like, not in R, but after you export this, RStudio has something called visual here. So you can switch to visual mode, and then it will just show you what would it look like. So it would look like this. So we'll have the heading 1, heading 2, the R code, all the output, then heading 1, heading 2. And you can also navigate all of these here. All right, so in order to change this, we're going to load silver. So we just want to tell it to load the data set of silver. So we can run this chunk by chunk. So first we need to load a bunch of packages. So I'm just going to go to run and run current chunk. So this just makes sure that all the right packages, including Jamovi, runs. So Jamovi does the same thing. It just doesn't show you that it's doing this. And then I'm going to load the data. So here we have the load data set. So I'm just loading silver. And then how many rows do I have? I have 50 rows, which is great. It means that it's ready for me. Now, the only thing I need to do is to look at so I can run this one by one. I can run Data Explorer and see all the distribution of all the results. And then I can run the one sample t-test. So this, I just copy pasted from this. So this and this are exactly the same thing, right? So I didn't really need to do much. I just took this and put it here. And when I run this, it gives me exactly the same kind of results. So what you see here is what you see here, just not with the nice APA tables. Finally, one more thing that's not in the Jamovi is that you can have the great plots. So here, for example, you can run this histogram. So I'm just going to run this chunk as well. And at the end, it will give you this plot. This is the plot that you'll get from me. And what's nice about this plot is this plot has everything. It has both the distribution, it has both the statistics and the mean. So finally, you have everything. You can take this figure, copy paste this into your manuscript, and you're done. You don't really need anything. You can just say see figure 5, and you're done. So for stage 1, what you need to do for your stage 1, the results section is basically a copy paste of either the table from Jamovi or the figures from R. That's the only thing that you need for the results for stage 1. Is this clear? Yeah? Very straightforward. Why am I asking you to do this? Because this is our pre-registration. So we upload this as our plan so everybody can see that this was our plan and they can understand this based on what it is that we did with the simulated data. And later they can see that the only difference between the simulated before pre-registration and the real data after pre-registration, after data collection, is the change of the statistics. Okay. All right. So this is the data analysis plan. Another thing I just want to show you at the end is that in order to see the output from R, we have something called knit. So I go to knit, read the down, I press this, and now what it does is that it combines all the text and all the R code, and it creates a document for me. In this case, it creates an HTML, but you can also ask it to give you a doc file. And here you can already navigate. Everything that you saw in R is now in an HTML file. So you can just take this plot. Okay. If you prefer this in a document, then you can go to knit. You can do a Word document, press this, and it will knit this to a Word document. And then you can just copy paste this into your Google Doc. Okay. So this is how simple the R is. So a lot of students are very scared of this. There's no reason to be scared. You can basically just export stuff from Jamovi. So here you have the analyses, you have the histogram, here you have all so everything is very straightforward and simple. So with the help of all the templates that I gave you, and a little bit of Qualtrics, a little bit of Jamovi, all this within 5 minutes, you can get everything done with a lot of copy paste to your manuscript, okay? So what is the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge is not the data analysis. You don't have to do any data collection. You just simulate participants. You don't even have to worry about the results because everything is already prepared for you. It's a lot of copy paste. So the major task for Project 3 is none of these things. This is just to give you some research experience. The most important thing are the vignettes, the factors, the comparisons between charity A and charity B, that you come up with the best ones that we can all together test your predictions. So this concludes my tutorial to show you step by step what to do. We're going to take a 5-minute break. When we come back for the second session, you can choose if you want to come back or not. I will not be offended if you want to leave. That's completely okay, up to you. You've all signed already your participation, so no problem with this. But if you want, I encourage you to take this 1 hour that's left in order to sit down, try as much as possible with POE, call me, sit together with me, show me your process, that together, when you walk out of here, we make sure that you know exactly what you want to do for Project 3 or how to engage in this, okay? I want you leaving here knowing that this is a simple task and one that could be very interesting for you to do your first research, to do something that is meaningful, okay? So 5 minutes break. Hope to see you in the second section, and then we can work on this together. There's one thing I wanted to clarify for you. Someone asked me, how does this data collection happen? How long does it take? How do I prepare for this? So I just want to clarify that I conduct all the data collection with an online labor market. Online labor market means that there is a marketplace for labor tasks. So we can recruit people to do all kinds of tasks for us that we don't want to do. So you can have people go look up stuff. You can have them do all kinds of meaningless coding or whatever you want. I use online labor markets in order for them to answer my surveys. So I pay something like $1 for 5 minutes of a survey. Okay. This is kind of like the minimum wage in the US. And I use this kind of platform. It's called Prolific. So in Prolific, I can get something like 1,000 participants within an hour. So basically, the entire data collection for this course will take me about an hour. Now, because this is not the only course that I have, and because I do other things aside from teaching, then it might take me a little bit longer first to prepare the pre-registration, because I need to combine all of your surveys, and then I need to pre-register, and then I go on Prolific and I post the call checks in order to collect the data, and then it comes in within an hour. This is all to say that I will provide you with the real data within a week after stage one. This is my aim. This is my goal. So this happens fairly quickly. In addition, if you care about how this works, you can see all the projects that I ran already. So for example, this project, Read, if we go here and we have a look at this, you can see the study details. I have a lot of control over how this is done. So I have a description. I can say if I want this done on the desktop. I can also give the call checks, and then I can say that I only want, so in this case, it was 195 participants from the US, standard sample, representative sample, country of birth US, nationality US. So I can be very, very specific about the kind of participants that I want, and they have a pool of about 200,000 participants that just wait to get more tasks. So once I post this, almost immediately, a lot of participants start doing this. So you can see that this one specific one, I recruited 895. It cost me 1,400 pounds. I can set how much money I pay. So for an 8-minute task, I pay something like £1.2, so 1.5 US dollar. And it checks that I give good salary. So this is acceptable for minimum federal wage in the US. Okay. So this is just to show you how this magic of data collection is done. Okay. If you're doing a thesis, you can also do this with your advisor if they have funding for you. This is how I did things with all my undergraduate thesis students. Okay, so this is how I'm going to do things for you. I just wanted to clarify this because I saw some of you being confused about this. Okay.